from Agora Math Circle, and today I'm going to be teaching Junior Advanced Session 4, which is on fractions. Before watching this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel to see more videos like this. The topics I'm going to be teaching today are LCM and GCF, equivalence, ordering, and operations. So the first topic I'm going to teach today is LCM and GCF. LCM is the smallest number that's a multiple between any given numbers. GCF stands for greatest common factor. GCF is the biggest factor that is common between any two numbers. What that means is that if you're given any two numbers, the GCF is the biggest number that is a factor in both numbers. Now I'm going to explain how to find the LCM and GCF. So in this problem, you need to find the LCM and GCF of 12 and 16. So first what you do is you write down the numbers, 12 and 16, then you draw an L. Then outside here, you find the smallest prime number that's common between 12 and 16, which in this case is 2. Then you divide the number here, 2, into these two numbers. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. Then you repeat the process. You draw the L, and you write the smallest prime number, which again is 2. Then you do 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So 3 and 4 don't have any prime numbers in common, so you're done. The LCM here would be all of these numbers on the outside multiplied together. So this would be 2 times 2 times 3 times 4. And the GCF would only be the numbers that you wrote on the left. So the GCF would be 2 times 2. Okay. In this example, you need to find the LCM and GCF of 20 and 25. So you wrote out 20 and 25 and you do the L. And the smallest prime number that's common between 20 and 25 is 5. So 20 divided by 5 is 4, and 25 divided by 5 is 5. 4 and 5 don't have any more prime numbers in common, so you're done. And then, so all of the numbers on the outside multiplied together is the LCM. So the LCM would be 5 times 4 times 5. And the GCF would only be the numbers on the left, which in this case is only 5. So the GCF would be 5. The second topic I'm going to teach today is equivalence. To make equivalent fractions, you have to multiply both the numerator and denominator by the same number, or divide the numerator and denominator by the same number. So what that means is that if you had a fraction, if you multiplied the numerator and the denominator by the same number, the fraction that you would get would be the same as the first fraction. So in this fraction, 2 over 4, if you multiplied the numerator by 2, 2 times 2 is 4, and the denominator by 2, 4 times 2 is 8, your fractions will be the same. So 2 by 4 in the diagram would be half of the circle, and 4 by 8 would be half the diagram. So it's the same fraction. Here, 2 by 4 is that much, and if you divide it by 2, we'd get 1, and the denominator divided by 2, we would get 1 over 2, which is the same as 2 over 4. The third topic I'm going to teach today is ordering. Ordering is talking about when you want to list fractions from least to greatest or greatest to least. And the way you have to do that is when you have multiple fractions, you always have to have the same denominator. So in this case, our three fractions are 2 over 7, 5 over 7, and 4 over 7. The denominators are the same, so we can least these least to greatest. So if when the denominators are the same, the smallest number would be the number with the smallest numerator. And since we have 2, 5, and 4, the smallest numerator would be 2. So the smallest fraction is 2 over 7. And then the next smallest number would be 4, So your next fraction would be 4 over 7. And then your greatest fraction would be 5 over 7. So in this problem, our fractions are 1 over 4, 1 over 8, and 1 over 2. We can't compare these fractions because the denominator isn't the same. As we learned before, we can use equivalence to multiply the numerator and denominator of a fraction and it'll still be the same fraction. So what we can do here is, with the numbers 4, 8, and 2, we have to find the LCM. Using the ladder method we learned before, we know that the LCM of 4, 8, and 2 is 8. So you want to multiply each fraction's numerator and denominator by a number so that the denominator will be 8. So starting with 1 over 4. We know that 4 times 2 is 8. So with the fraction 1 over 4, we want to multiply the numerator and denominator by 2 so that the denominator will be 8. And because of equivalence, we know 2 over 8 is the same as 1 over 4. And with the fraction 1 over 8, we don't need to multiply this fraction by anything because the denominator is already 8. With 1 over 2, we know that 2 times 4 is 8. So we have to multiply the numerator and denominator of 1/2 by 4. And you get 4 eighths. So you know, because of equivalence, you know 4 eighths is the same as 1/2. So we can now relist the fractions that you had. 1/4 can be written as 2/8. 1/8 can be written as 1/8. And 1/2 can be written as 4/8. So since the denominator is the same, we can compare these fractions. We can see that the smallest numerator here is 1/8. So 1/8 is the smallest fraction. And then the next smallest fraction would be 2/8, and the biggest fraction is 4/8. The fourth topic I'm going to teach today is operations. So first I'm going to explain what a reciprocal is. So when you want to find the reciprocal of a number, you switch the numerator and denominator of that number. So in this case, when you want to find the reciprocal of 3 over 7, the numerator is 3 and the denominator is 7. So if you switch the numerator and denominator of this number, you would get 7 over 3. And that would be the reciprocal of 3 over 7. If you wanted to find the reciprocal of 2, since 2 is a whole number, it's over 1. So 2 will be the numerator and 1 would be the denominator. So the reciprocal of 2 would be 1 over 2. So now I'm going to teach how to add fractions. There are 3 steps when you have to add fractions. The first step is that you have to make sure the denominator is the same. The second step is that you have to add the numerators, which are the top numbers. And then the third step is to simplify if you need to. So in this first example, it's 1 over 8 plus 2 over 8. The denominator is the same. So all you have to do is add the numerators. So 1 plus 2 would be 3. And then the denominator is going to stay the same. In this example, 1 over 4 plus 1 over 2, the denominators aren't the same, so we have to use the same method we used before. We need to find the LCM of 4 and 2, which, using the method we learned before, would be the number 4. So you need to multiply the numerator and denominator of the fractions so that you have a denominator of 4. 1 over 4 already has a denominator of 4, so we don't need to do anything to it. 1 over 2 has to be multiplied. So 2 times 2 equals 4. So we need to multiply the numerator and denominator of 1 over 2 by 2. And you would get 2 over 4. And we know, because of equivalence, that 1 over 2 and 2 over 4 is the same fraction. So now we can add. We would do 1 over 4 and rewrite 1 over 2 as 2 over 4. So since the denominators are the same, we can add the numerators. 1 plus 2 would be 3. And the denominator would stay the same. We would have 4. So the answer is 3 over 4. Now I'm going to talk about subtracting fractions. Subtracting fractions is similar to adding fractions. You have to have the same denominator, but the only difference is that instead of adding the numerators, you subtract the numerators. So in this example, you have 3 over 8 minus 2 over 8. The denominators are already the same, so all we have to do is subtract the numerators. So this would equal, and then the numerator would be 3 minus 2, which is 1. And the denominator would stay the same. So the answer would be 1 over 8. In this example, we have 1 over 2 minus 1 over 4. The denominators aren't the same, so we can't subtract the fractions. So using the method we learned before, equivalent, we can multiply the numerator and denominators of the fraction so that the denominators is the same. So first we need to find the LCM of 2 and 4. So there are many methods to find the LCM, but I'm going to use the latter method. So as we learned before, first you write the two numbers, then you draw an L. And the smallest prime factor that's common between 2 and 4 would be 2. And then you divide 2 into the two numbers. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Since 1 and 2 don't have any prime factors in common, we're done. So the LCM, as we know, is all of the factors outside the L that you multiply together. So the LCM of 2 and 4 would be 2 times 2 times 1, which equals 4. So the LCM of 2 and 4 would be 4. So what that tells us is that we want our denominator to be 4. So we have to multiply each fraction by a number, numerator and denominator, so that our denominator ends up as 4. For 1/2, we know 2 times 2 is 4. So to make our denominator 4, we have to multiply the numerator and denominator by 2, and you would get 2 over 4. 1 over 4 we can leave by itself because the denominator is already 4. So now we have to rewrite the problem. Here. 2 over 4 minus 1 over 4. We know that you just have to subtract the numerators. So 2 minus 1 is 1. And you keep the denominator the same. So our answer would be 1/4. So now I'm going to talk about multiplying fractions. So the steps you need to have when multiplying fractions is first, you have to multiply the numerators. Then you have to multiply the denominators. And at the end, if you need to, you have to simplify. So in this example, 3 over 7 times 1 over 2. The first step is to multiply the numerators. 3 times 1 is 3. And then you multiply the denominators. 7 times 2 is 14. So you can't simplify 3 over 14, so this is your answer. In this example, 1 over 4 times 2 over 3, we would have to multiply the numerators. 1 times 2, which is 2, and then 4 times 3, which is 12. 2 over 12 can be simplified because the numerator and denominator has a factor in common. In this case, the factor is 2. So what you would do is you would divide the numerator and denominator by 2 so that it's in its simplest form. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So your answer would be 1 over 6. The last topic we're going to talk about is division. The steps you have to go through when dividing fractions is that first you have to keep the first fraction the same. The second step is that you have to change the division sign into a multiplication sign. And then the third step is to flip the last fraction's numerator and denominator. What it's saying is that you have to change the last fraction into its reciprocal. And then at the end, you multiply the fractions. So, in this example, 2 over 3 divided by 5 over 7, our first step is to keep the first fraction. So we would just write 2 over 3. And then the second step is to change the division sign into a multiplication sign. So you would write a multiplication sign. Then you have to switch the numerator and denominator of the last fraction. So since the numerator is 5 and the denominator is 7, if we switch it, we would get 7 over 5. And then we just multiply the fractions. So when multiplying, we would multiply the numerators first. 2 times 7 is 14, and then multiply the denominators. 3 times 5 is 15. So 14 over 15 is your answer. Now we have the example 5 over 6 divided by 7 over 11. So our first step would be to keep the fraction the same. So you would have 5 over 6. Then you would switch the division sign. So draw a multiplication sign. And then you find the reciprocal of the last fraction. So since the numerator is 7 and the denominator is 11, we would switch it into the fraction 11 over 7. And then multiply. 5 times 11 is 55, and 6 times 7 is 42. So this, 55 over 42, would be your answer. When dividing fractions, you can use the acronym KCF to remember how to divide. KCF stands for keep, change, and flip. Now I'm going to go over a few problems that will review the topics we just learned. Number 1. When tank A is full, it holds 555 gallons of water. When tank B is full, it holds 680 gallons. If tank A is only 2/3 full and tank B is only 2/5 full, how many more gallons of water are needed to fill both tanks to its capacity? So we know that tank A is only 2/3 full. So in this diagram of tank A, the gallons of water would be 2 out of 3. So you can see that 1/3 of tank A would be empty. And then we also know tank B is only 2/5 full. So in the diagram, 2 out of 5 boxes of tank B would be full. So you can see 3/5 of tank B is left empty. So since we know 1/3 of tank A is empty and tank A holds 555 gallons, 1/3 of 555 would be 1/3 times 555. And since we know 3/5 of tank B is left empty, and we also know 680 gallons is how many tank B can hold, to find the number of gallons needed to fill tank B up, you would do 3/5 times 680. So then we would multiply the fractions. 555 is a whole number, so it will be over 1. And 680 is a whole number, so it would be over 1. Then we would multiply the numerators. 1 times 555 is 555, and 3 times 1 is 3. And then 3 times 680 is 2040, and 5 times 1 is 5. So these two fractions can be simplified because 555 is divisible by 3 and 2040 is divisible by 5. So if you simplify, you are left with the whole numbers of 185 plus 480. And if you add those numbers, you get 593 gallons. So this next problem is from Math Kangaroo. Number 2. The diagram below represents the distance from Mara's house and Ben's house. What is the distance between their houses? So their diagram shows you Mara's house and Ben's house. And it tells you 1/8 of the distance between their houses is 100 meters. So in this diagram, I marked every distance of 1/8 from 1/8 to 8/8. So you go from 1/8 to 2/8 and 3/8. Since each distance is 1/8, you know that each distance is 100 meters. So in total, there are 8 distances of 100 meters. So the total distance would be 100 times 8, which is 800 meters.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. If you have any questions, you can email info@agoramatrico.org or comment below and we'll reply back. Maybe. And if you want to see practice things or anything about us, you can visit our website, which is basically the end of the email, but without the info and the end. So bye!